Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Jason with Jadrenaquatics. Thanks for joining me again. So today we are going to talk about DIY lids for our tanks. This is going to be version 2. In the first version I talked tons and tons about how to cut it and exactly what to do to be able to get the ones you exactly need. I'll link that video above so you guys can go back to it and check it out. But for now, I want to go over some changes that need to be made. Well, first of all, let's talk about some of the complaints that I got about it. So first of all, the title was DIY lids under $5. Well, people complain because just to buy the polycarbonate itself was $22, but it was based upon making multiple tops for 10-gallon tanks. You can buy a 6-foot by 2-foot sheet from Amazon and it's about $22 for that sheet. So you can actually get 6 of them out of that sheet, which makes the price per piece of polycarbonate about a little over $3. And then when you add the rest of the accessories to it, it does stay under $5. So again, understand this is about making a bunch of different ones for your fish room. If you're just trying to make one, yes, this way is going to be expensive. But if you're making lots of them, this way is fantastic. Well, so let's move on to the next thing. Let's talk about another complaint. One of the complaints that I got a lot was the way that I actually put the two pieces together. So here we have one. This is actually one that I've had for 2 years now, and as you can see, it's disgusting because it's been on the tank. So it has the same piece of 2-inch packing tape that I put on there that everyone, no, not everyone, a lot of people complained about because it just seemed too cheap and that it wasn't going to work. But as you can see, 2 years later, it works great. And the other thing that's really great about it is that when you are ready to clean it, you can simply just pull it off. You can get rid of the tape, take this thing into the bathtub or whatever and clean it all up and put another piece of tape on it. But since a lot of people complained about it, I thought, okay, let's find another way to do it and let's still keep it under $5 a piece. So this is the idea that I came up with, is a plastic hinge. So I found some plastic hinges that you can buy on Amazon. I'll link all this stuff down there below so you guys can go on Amazon and buy it if you want to. The hinges are 77 cents each. Let me show you one where I've already put a hinge on it. You can see the hinge here. Obviously I didn't do the greatest job centering it, but this is just for an example. So I simply took some silicone, just like we use on our tanks. Be sure you always use silicone one clear. You don't ever want to use the other stuff because it's poisonous to the fish. Even though you're putting it on top and it's probably not going to ever enter the tank, you still want to always use it just in case. You don't even want to have the bad stuff even laying around. Okay, so we put this one on there. I just put a dab of silicone on each end, smashed it down. If you want it to be clean, take your finger, wipe the excess away, and then within about 30-45 minutes, it is dry. And so I only put one on here. One works good, but if you want to, you can put 2 on here. But when you end up putting 2 on here, it makes the cost of each one of these about $5.15, so it puts it above the $5. But to be able to put 1 on there is only less than $5 to do this one. Again, this is for a 10-gallon aquarium. If you guys are enjoying this video, be sure and take a second and click that like button down below, and also don't forget to subscribe so you can see when I have other videos coming out. Now when you're putting these hinges on here, you want to be sure that you look at the hinge. There's 2 different sides. There's one kind of a flat side that has like a groove in it. That's a side you want to make sure that goes down onto the polycarbonate, or they won't work completely right. And the other thing is you want to make sure that these things are, your piece of polycarbonate is flush against each other before you glue them down, so you'll make sure that it sits back on top of the aquarium just right. And so when you want to take your silicone, you just want to put just a little dab on there is all you really need, because you don't want it to end up kind of squirting into the hinge part itself, because if it gets in there and then it hardens, your hinge is probably not going to work. So just a little dab is all it's really going to do you. So you just simply want to put it on there like that. Make sure that you have it centered along that line. Centered along that line right there. And then press down on it. And then if you want to keep it clean, you can take your finger and clean it up on both sides. Then again, just do that on the second one. Again, you don't have to use 2 of these if you don't want to. It looks nicer and it'll open easier, but again, if you're doing a bunch of aquariums, it's going to cost you even more. is when we're using the handles. In the previous video, I used these. These are some command hooks. These are more expensive. I decided to try to find something a little bit cheaper to kind of offset the cost of being able to use these. And I actually found these. It's another command hook, but these I actually like a little bit better. They're a little bit smaller, they're a little bit easier to grab hold of. And remember, these things are always replaceable because they've got the command hook strip. So you just pull that strip off and then you can clean it, throw it away, put a new strip on, because it always gives you multiple ones. Now, these you can get, I think you can buy about 28 of them in a box is the way that I bought them, and it got the cost down to about 55 cents a piece for these. So when you take the $3 that it takes to cut the sheet down, and then you take the 77 cents for this, the 56 cents for this, you're still less than $5 for each one. Okay, the next thing that I want to talk about when you're making these is I want to talk about the two different types that you can use. Again, I'll link those down below. The first one that you get is from Home Depot, and the next one that you get is the one that actually comes from Amazon. Now, the difference between the two, first of all, the one that comes from Amazon only comes in a 2-foot by 6-foot sheet, and the one that comes from Home Depot comes in a 2-foot by 8-foot sheet. Lowe's is typically where I always get all my stuff, but Lowe's does not carry it. Some of your other local places will, they might carry something that is a better price, maybe a little bit different. But let's talk a little bit about the difference in them. Let me grab some samples here. Okay, so first of all, let's talk about the ones that come from Home Depot. So first of all, these are thicker. Let me show you the comparison between the one that comes from Home Depot and the one that comes from Amazon. You can see that the holes in between are much thicker. For you guys that don't know, this stuff is made for greenhouses. That's why it has this void area in the middle. So this one has a much smaller void area. I actually like these thinner ones a little bit better. There's not really a reason. I just don't know. I like the way they feel a little bit better. The other big difference that you have on them is when you buy this stuff in this 2-foot sheet, so it basically comes something about like this. On the edges of the ones that come from Home Depot, it has this smooth edge to it, and that smooth edge is on both sides, so that whenever I put these in the tank, I make this to be the end piece, so that when you're reaching in and grabbing this, it's always smooth and it doesn't have this real sharp edge to it. The problem with the ones that come from Amazon, it only has one side on the entire thing that's smooth. So you almost always have to use one of these rough edges. Now let's talk about the other main problem that we have. Let's go back to the one that we had before that had been on the tank for 2 years. So again, this is the old one that sat on a tank for a couple of years, and as you can see, what happens is because of all of these open holes in here, the water gets in there and bubbles in there, and that algae begins to grow in the center of this, and this stuff becomes extremely hard to clean. And the problem with these things, as they get dirtier and dirtier, it continually cuts out more and more of the lights that are being able to get through. So you got to take some time to clean these things. So the only way you're really going to be able to get in here and clean these things out, you're going to have to take some type of pipe cleaners and run it in and out of here for a while to be able to get that stuff out of here. So let's talk about a way that we can fix that. So I've got two different ideas of what you can use to fix these issues. The first one, we go back to silicone. We take the silicone and we just apply it into each one of these holes. So you can imagine it's going to take a while to go through both sides, but that will at least seal this thing up so you don't have to ever worry about any type of water or algae getting in there. If you have a whole bunch in your fish room, that's going to take a long time, and I'm probably not going to take the time to do it, but you might. So let's talk about another way that you can do it. A glue gun. This way, it's not necessarily going to be any cheaper or any faster, but maybe you have one of these already laying around. So load up your glue in there, you do the same thing, just push this thing and seal in all of those holes so this thing is completely sealed up and you no longer have that problem with the algae getting in there at all. So, what is Jason's choice of which one to use? So they both have their pros and cons, but I think for the cost difference, I'm beginning to like the stuff that comes from Amazon better. It's about 80 cents a piece less to make a 10-gallon one. So I think that's kind of what puts it over the edge for me, is the savings that you get from being able to use this, and the fact that I really like this thin one better. This one, for me, it seems to stay a lot cleaner, and it seems just to be a whole lot easier to work with. So there you go. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. I hope you guys have learned something. If you have some type of comments or questions, be sure and leave it down below. Love to hear from each and every one of you guys. So thanks again, guys, and God bless.